All right, I'm going to walk you through how to do the assignment based on Kroger and Tiffany's. And of course, you'll do for your pair of companies like Home Depot and Lowe's, or Delta and Southwest, or Chevron and Exxon, or Coke and Pepsi. I'm just going to walk through this with Kroger and Tiffany's just to demonstrate what I want you to do. But you're essentially pulling information from that big workbook that I put together and posted up in Blackboard that provides the financial information for your companies. All right, so this is Kroger and Tiffany's, and the first thing I need to do is get assets, total liabilities, and equity from the financial statements. It comes off of the balance sheet. So the easiest way to do this is copy, and then copy. I'm going to do a paste special and paste in the values. Okay, go back and get the liabilities, total liabilities, copy, Control C, and then paste values, and then get the equity, and paste special, paste values. Oops. Now let's try that again. Paste special, values. Okay, so total assets are equal to liabilities and equity, so the sum of those two numbers should be equal to that one. Now I want to get dividends, and those dividends aren't reported directly in the income statement, but I do remember that if you take beginning retained earnings plus net income minus dividends, that'll give you the ending retained earnings, all right, for any particular year. So I can go in here and get beginning retained earnings, and for this latest year here, the end of 2013 was the beginning of 2014. So I can actually use these numbers as beginning retained earnings, and then the numbers at the end of the year are the ending retained earnings for each of these years. The net income comes from the income statement, and so to get the dividends, I could just solve for it here. Now it's also easier to get Excel to do this for me. What I need to know is dividends. So if I rearrange the terms in here, dividends are equal to beginning retained earnings minus ending retained earnings plus net income. Okay? So all I've done here is just rearrange terms using the algebra skills God gave to me. If I want the dividends, I'll take the beginning retained earnings minus the ending retained earnings plus the net income, and that'll give me the dividends for each of these years. I could check my math. 9787 beginning plus the 1531 net income minus 337 of dividends ought to give me 10981. All right, so there's my dividends. and I could just copy and paste over here. The stock repurchases work similarly. I go down here and remember that the change in treasury stock is by definition the increase in share repurchases. So if I have the beginning treasury stock, so for 2014, the beginning treasury stock was what it was at the end of the prior year. The ending treasury stock is what it is at the end of this year. Okay, so that minus that says that they bought back 404,000 or $404 million. It was 9237 negative because it's negative equity, so they bought back another 404. Copy that over here. Now when you paste it in, I want you to paste in positive numbers. So I just took the absolute value of those. And then just paste it in the absolute value. What I can see here for Kroger's is that they bought back a lot of their equity. It's going up, to be sure, because they're earning money, but they returned to shareholders close to $750 million, and as a percentage of the assets, all right, that's about 2.5%. And as a percentage of equity, that'd be around 13-14%. Okay, so I want you to do this for both of the companies, and I'll just quickly do this for I can quickly do this for my Tiffany's numbers. Go through it the same way. The beginning retained earnings be the retained earnings for the end of the prior year. The ending retained earnings would be the retained earnings for this year. And the net income would be this year's net income. So if I use my formula for dividends, it's beginning retained earnings minus the ending retained earnings plus the net income. And that's the numbers that I would paste in here as dividends. Some days this just doesn't seem worth doing. Alright, go back here to copy my numbers. Paste special values. Okay, and then for the stock repurchase, I would just copy the formulas I did over here. I can just copy them over here into Tiffany's, and notice that it's all zeros. Tiffany's doesn't have any share buybacks. All right, now your companies, 7 of you, the 8 companies we're looking at do. So with Tiffany's, that was easy. If you have no treasury stock, there's no stock buybacks. The only other thing I need to do is get my Tiffany's assets. The liabilities. and the equity. All right, so now when I have my spreadsheet saved, I would save it as Barth, Mike, dividends, and then attach that when I submit it and give a brief synopsis of what I see. You can see, well, we're not really comparing apples and apples here because Tiffany's and Kroger's are really two different companies. But one thing I can observe here is that if we took this as a percentage of assets with Kroger, all right, whether they're buying back stock or doing a share repurchase, they're actually repurchasing somewhere between 2.5% and 7% of their stock. Really big share repurchases here in these 2 years, which are probably reflective of when they were doing their acquisitions. Whatever you want to put up there, it doesn't really matter. I want you to compare your company and the other company, though. All right, so if I was comparing these two, that's a big dividend there in that last year, and I don't know why they would have done that, but they typically have a much lower payout. All right, so whatever you want to say about the share repurchases and or the dividends, that's up to you. This is the mechanics of going through it.